Let's try this again. Let's try this again. Hello, hello. Anyone here? Okay, so we're back apparently. I don't know what happened there. That's interesting. That is very interesting. So I don't know what's happening here. Hopefully this doesn't happen again. If it does, I'll have to figure it out. But I just got an internet connection issue trying to reconnect you, and then it did, and then I didn't. So I'll have to figure this out. Anyways, I don't have a log of all the questions asked. So anyone who's still around and hasn't completely given up hope or whatnot, let me know if you have any questions back to wherever we were left off, because I don't know what's going on. I saw a question about the Stellaris. So I got a question about Stellaris, but has my opinion on Stellaris changed? Anything worth noting there? And overall, let me see what's going on here. Sorry. Overall, so Stellaris, my opinion on Stellaris has not changed. Where I am with Stellaris is I think that they are likely to put out a good game. I don't know if they're going to be putting out a great game, and the reason for my hesitancy is the very fact that the Kickstarter existed in the form that it did, to me, means one of two things. It means either they don't have a clear picture of what a board game Kickstarter should look like, which I don't believe to be true. I believe they know that, but meaning either there's a question on their judgment calls, or there is an IP push. There's an IP crunch that they need to hit certain timelines and do things in a way they wouldn't have otherwise done. Either one of those does not bode well for my confidence in the final board game. If they're making judgment calls I disagree with, that doesn't bode well for my confidence in the final board game. If they have to do things that aren't the ideal way because of time crunches and IP conversations, that doesn't bode well for the final board game. So either way, it's just a lack of confidence on my end as far as whether we're likely to end up with a great product or a good product, effectively. Okay, Successful Geek, what is your favorite Martin Wallace game? Likely Brask Birmingham, possibly Steam, but it's been a long time since I played Steam. It's been a good 2-3 years, and so I really want to play more Steam so I can see if it's a game for me. Sebastian Cador, question, do you fear getting a burnout with the hobby? So I'm going to divide that into two things, content creation burnout and board games burnout, because I don't know which one it is. In regards to board games, there's an ebb and a flow. In general, there's been always I've been in the hobby since 2012, and I've certainly had an ebb and a flow as far as how involved, how obsessed I am versus how not. But I've always been involved with it. I think it's been a long enough time that I don't fear any burnout. And I can look to other people who have done this for a long time and say, look, it's not a hobby that everyone's going to burn out of. I mean, Tom Bassel's been doing this for how many years? So I think that I'm not worried about being burnt out on board games. One of the nice things about board games as opposed to, let's say, Magic the Gathering, is I'm constantly playing different board games as opposed to just different keywords within the same system. So a burnout I don't see happening anytime soon. I'm in love with the hobby the same way I am now, more so if anything than the way I was back, when I first jumped into it. And in terms of content creation, I don't know. It's been a year of putting out a video every single day, a little more than a year at this point, a year and 3 months. And I think it'll continue. I love doing what I'm doing. My biggest problem right now is I want to do more. I want to do more content than I think is reasonable to expect people to keep up with. And that goes to the Saturday videos that I put up 5 videos in one day. I like board games. I like talking about board games. I like conversations about board games. I like reviewing board games. I like being involved in the board game space. Afternoon, Alan from the UK. Great channel. Thanks for all the content and a balanced view. What is your biggest gaming financial regret? What did you learn from it? Ooh, it's a tough one. This is a tough one. So my biggest gaming financial regret is likely, but it comes with a caveat, is likely my coffee table. So I did a coffee table review for Uniquely Geek a while ago. And while I think the coffee table is great for the right space, I ended up just using it for content creation. So that's where it comes with this weird tag. Like, I use my main game table for gaming, and the coffee table I don't use as often for gaming because I'm filming videos on it half the time, which means it didn't ever end up being the gaming space I needed. I could have bought a, $200 coffee table that's the right size and shape, and it would have done just as well as like $2,000 deluxeified game coffee table. Now, I have reached out to them to see whether I can convert it to a different table or whatnot, and I'm sure there'll be a point where, depending on the space I move into, where it might be useful. But in terms of the biggest regret I have in board gaming, I think I spent about $2,000 more than I needed to for a table that ultimately just ended up being a space to film videos and did not get utilized the way I can properly utilize a game table. Now, don't get me wrong, my game table upstairs from Uniquely Geek, the one I play most of my games on, that's likely my biggest gaming not regret, whatever the opposite of regret is. That's the best money I ever spent on board games. That has allowed me to play more board games, different board games in a way I haven't until now. So it's kind of the reverse polars, my coffee table, the worst $2,000 spent in gaming, and my upstairs table, the best $5,000 I ever spent in gaming. Okay. What's behind Yogi Bear? What's behind the front-facing board covers? More games. Yes, more games. In fact, it's always going to be the expansions for the games, or I should say, in most cases, it's the expansions. So we have Tainted Grail expansions behind there. Most of these are always going to be the expansions behind the content. That's because I wanted the balance of having something that looks pretty on camera, but I didn't want to forget where my games are. So I think with like one exception, they are always going to be the gaming whatever. With one exception, they're always going to be the expansions to the game that you see there. And the exception is going to be Santorini, I believe. There's some other stuff behind Santorini. So Successful Geek, I've canceled my Stellaris early bird pledge mainly because I don't have a group to play it with, and I don't see that changing, sadly. So I agree with you to an extent. The fact that I don't see it being likely to hit the table to begin with makes me more reluctant to, do anything about it, but we'll see there. Danilis, hope this time it works. So Danilis, yes, I do hope the stream works this time. If it cuts out again, I don't know what I'll do. If this does cut out early, I may end up just putting up a second video. A regular daily video instead. I have a few backlogs I can put in. So if I don't end up having like an hour-long live stream, I'll probably just throw up a video instead. So if this cuts out, there'll be a video today, apparently, because why not? Jason Ivanova, what do you think of the minis and Edith and Tainted Grail? Do you think they really help contribute to the theme and immersion? Yes, I think they do, but the problem is there's too many different miniatures and constantly pulling them out that they also break immersion as you constantly go through the box. Overall, the way I recommend it for anyone who's interested in ISS Vanguard, Edith or Tainted Grail is if you really want those miniatures and me telling you not to get them isn't going to stop you, then get them. But if you'd rather save some money and you don't really need them, just pass on the extra miniatures. The core box miniatures are more than fine. Azael, how do you get heavy weight games to the table without too much quarterbacking? Always found it a problem in our group. What do you mean by quarterbacking? Meaning it's not a cooperative game. So are you talking about alpha playing? What do you mean by quarterback? Let me know what you mean by quarterbacking, and I'll attempt to answer that question. Sebastian Cador, after Wild Ascent, are you all in with Storm Thunder? Before Wild Ascent, I was all in with Storm Thunder, but I was less certain about my all-in pledge. Versus now, I am, certain about my all-in pledge because Storm Thunder supposedly has a lot of the core mechanisms from Wild Ascent, but with a different game system. I can't think of a good comparison offhand, but similar yet different in terms of what it's trying to do. So I am more interested. I'm still scared of the Giant Epic campaign. Keep that in mind. I actually have a video coming up this week about, 24 Epic campaign games that I'm a little intimidated by. And Storm Thunder, I'm still intimidated by, but I'm definitely more invested having played Wild Ascent and liking Wild Ascent. Pacey, hey Alex, as a practicing Jew, do you feel different emotions or reluctance to play games involving Nazis or Hitler? So this is an interesting one. This is one of those times where I get in trouble. So first of all, no, I don't. But that the problem is the context of the question. So I assume to some extent this question is, and maybe I assume incorrectly, in which case forgive me, but I assume to some extent that the question is tied to the general conversation around colonization games these days and people who are bothered by that theme. So as a very different starting point, there is a different conversation between a World War II themed game or a game where you are trying to kill Hitler, such as, what is that game? There's a game, I can't remember. There's a game where you're trying to kill Hitler at the end, Black Orchestra. And so there's a difference between those themes and a theme where you are the person, if you are Hitler doing things. The problem with colonization games is very often it puts you in the shoes of the person who's doing the thing that is problematic. Now, I'll admit, I'm not personally bothered by it. It doesn't personally bother me. That said, I recommend, if you are someone who's bothered by the conversation, the fact that people are upset by it, I recommend talking to someone you know personally who might be someone who's bothered by it and seeing how they feel, get their perspective. I'm not advocating for anything. I'm advocating just nothing, just listening, really. I'm not saying stop making these games. I'm not saying stop playing these games. I'm not saying get rid of these games. I certainly will not be getting rid of, Endeavor Age of Sail. I like the game and I'm not bothered by it. And no one at my table has been offended by it. It doesn't mean that you won't find someone who isn't offended by it. It's a very interesting conversation, and I would not pull out the game with anyone who is bothered by playing with it. Now, am I a part of the problem by even just playing it and allowing it to exist? I don't know. I would say that if people I knew said, listen, you really shouldn't even own that game, I'd think about it. I would genuinely think about it. Now, I've had a conversation with other people in the past about the fact that it's more about just let people know what you're bothered by. Do what you're bothered by. And I don't want to. Again, this is where it gets sensitive because I'm trying to talk about a conversation where I'm not personally the person bothered by it. Going back to your original question in terms of Hitler, Nazis, all that. Again, not bothered by it, but it's a very different conversation. Like there's that sample game that one came out. There's never an actual game, but there's a social experiment where someone put out a game where you have to efficiently put people on train cars and navigate them somewhere. And then at the end of the game, you find out you're herding Jews into concentration camps. At the end, after doing it, would I want to play that game? I'd find it distasteful. I wouldn't care about its existence, but I'd find it distasteful, and I'd probably question anyone who's actually playing it. So it's a complicated conversation. But my point is, in general, when making comparisons, don't seek to find the comparison that immediately proves your point. Seek to see if you can find the comparison that proves the other point and move you away from there. It's always easy to argue your own point. Timo Oberter, I'm lately seeing AlterQuest more often in the back of your videos as an actual gameplay. Nope. I get a lot of questions for an AlterQuest review. I get a ton of questions for that one. I haven't played it at all yet. It's set up on my table upstairs. I need to put it away because I'm just not getting it to the table. I'm not as excited about it right now compared to other games I want to get to the table, plus the commitment of time involved in it compared to other games that I need to get played for reviews, for Kickstarters, for whatever. So I do plan on playing AlterQuest. It's not leaving my collection right now. I don't know when it's going to get played. Like Tainted Grail, it's in the backlog and at some point should be played. Danilas, have you ever heard of Abyss? If yes, what do you think of it? I have heard of Abyss. Broken Meeple told me that I should really, really be playing it. Luke from the Broken Meeple. I do want to play it. I just haven't got to the table. Not currently on my immediate list. Nate Scooby, I know you have the video, but with Zombicide, do you think these minis are now to the point of too much? Should we back it because of the amount of minis? That's a personal question. It depends what you mean by too much. Do you mean too much for the general ecosystem we live in? Do you mean too much for your own collection? For your own collection, it's going to be a personal judgment call. For the ecosystem we live in, I love miniatures. I like miniatures. I like the constant evolution and the betterness of miniatures, the increases in quality and production levels and all that. So for me, there's no such thing as too much miniatures. The market will decide, and the market is seemingly deciding that miniatures are something they like and want to keep jumping in on. Sebastian Cato, is anything coming for Chronicles of Junagar? I do have a pledge, so I expect that I'll cover it at some point. Hopefully it doesn't fall into that same AlterQuest Tainted Grail space, but we'll see how it goes. Just like a tablet, do you ever sleep? Where do you find the time to do everything you do? I sleep roughly 6 hours a day on average is what I aim for. I get a little more during the week, a little less when I'm having longer nights doing whatever. So like a typical night might be 6.5 hours, and then one night a week I'll stay up till 3 in the morning playing board games. So finding the time to do everything I do comes down to two things. First of all, an incredibly supportive wife, incredibly supportive, who does way more than she should ever have to do because she's very, very supportive. She will, like right now, for instance, she went shopping and I asked her on Friday, oh, can I do a live stream? And she's like, oh, you were going to watch, Rafiki. Rafiki's our kid. Ignore the fact that his name's Rafiki. His name's Rafi. We just call him Rafiki. But she's like, oh, I'll just take him shopping with me so you can do a live stream. So I don't want to push for anything that she's not willing and okay doing, but she is incredibly supportive and a huge part of how I can do what I do. Secondly, from there, it's going to be dedication. I've given up a ton of other things in my life in order to do what I want, when I want, and to fit things in. I am filming, like I get up in the morning, I plan on doing at some point a video on my schedule, but I get up in the morning, 7 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, I'm at work. Between 7 and 9, I'm already planning for content creation, responding to BoardGameCo emails and whatnot. When I get home from work at around 6 or whatnot, it goes, basically, I spend some time with my kids. I put my kids to bed a little bit later, and then from 9 till 11 is again just dedicated content creation and board games. Saturday I'm completely offline, which allows me to play most of my board games. About 70% of my board games are played on Saturday. Well, I'll get on a regular Saturday, I'll get between 10 and 20 plays in of games, and sometimes more than 20 if I'm playing smaller, shorter games like Spicy, Cockroach Poker, or whatnot. So it's a lot of dedication. So I guess there's 3 reasons: supportive wife, dedicated commitment of time, and being offline for Saturday. Like, I mentioned at the beginning of the last stream that got canceled. Upcoming Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'll be completely offline playing board games for 3 days, not taking a single phone call, not responding to a single comment, not doing a single thing that isn't really socially based to a degree. So I get a ton of stuff done in that time space. Okay, we have Sebastian Cato. Do you ever play the game Myth? Nope, I have not. Heard too many mixed reviews that I never had a personal interest in while getting into the table. Jean-Samuel Leduc, hello. Good work, by the way. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Chris the Writer. Hey, Alex, have you seen Salt and Salt? I wanted to get your thoughts on the game. Just kickstarted Night Market today. I have not seen Salt and Salt. Night Market is fun. I wish the art were better. Like, I really like the game, and I'm just not pulled in by the graphic design, but solid game. Pacey, thanks, Alex. That was a really interesting answer to my question. I try. Again, I'm willing... I will get myself in trouble. I'm gonna like one of these days pull a Rado or whatever it is. Is that a new thing? I mean, maybe I just started it. Pull a Rado. Rado put out this video for context where he was trying to be even-handed in his approach to things, and he ended up getting himself in more hot water than he well anticipated. And I'll likely find myself in the same shoes one day. I guarantee you, I have nothing but the best of intentions regarding any conversation, any subject. But as much as you can be part of the problem by not talking about these things, you can also be part of the problem by talking about these things. And so it's a delicate balance. It's likely one day I'll end up putting on an apology for something I said that was not well thought, or canceling a video and editing a video. It's tricky. Being in the public space and understanding the ramifications of your words is tricky. If my words end up causing harm when I didn't intend them to, I'd rather eat, what's the word? Not the inappropriate one. There's a word, eat paste. I don't know. There's a word for it, but I'd rather apologize, edit, do whatever if I believe I have caused harm. Now, believe I've caused harm does not mean someone not liking what I said. It means having a reasonable conversation about it and seeing and understanding the viewpoint on the other side. But yeah, I'll get myself in trouble one day. I guarantee it. Okay, Jay Savanova, who did you play in Either Fields Tainted Grail? I think you can tell I want them. Tainted Grail I have not. Either Fields I'm playing as the guy with the stilts, I think. I'm pretty sure I'm playing as the guy with the stilts and I don't remember his name, Tinkerer, I think his name is, Lenny, hello from Belgium. Hello, Jean-Samuel Duke. Are you interested by the remake of Robinson Crusoe? I am not interested by the remake of Robinson Crusoe, not in the slightest. Robinson Crusoe is a game that sat on my shelf for far too long, unplayed. In theory, I want to play it. In practice, I have so many other games I'd rather play. The rulebook was a bit of a mess in terms of being able to properly get it to the table, play it easily, whatever. And eventually I moved on from it. Now, I do believe they are putting out both new miniatures, a new clean, streamlined rulebook. So they're certainly giving me more reasons to pay attention. That said, I have too many games and I'm looking for reasons not to back things as opposed to reasons to back things. Chris the Writer, Jay Stevanova, I'm waiting on Either Fields Wave 2, want to use the Reaper. Lenny Vini25, what are the Kickstarters to keep an eye on in late March and April? Funny you asked that. I will have a video coming up probably this week. I think it's going up Friday. Let me check my calendar over here. Friday. Nope, it's not going up Friday. It's going up the 28th, Sunday. So it's going up Sunday, which means it's going up on a day that I will not be online. So again, I will not be online Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. But on Sunday, I have a video going up, which is going to be upcoming Kickstarters, which is going to be all the Kickstarters coming up in April. Monday is going to be a to back or not to back, and Saturday is going to be a typical review day with reviews for a Long Shot the Dice game. I think I'll have something for Theurgy. I'm not sure. Great game, by the way. Theurgy is excellent. Back that game. You can skip my review. What else is there? There's potentially for Magna Roma, and then potentially V Commando's Ghost. Some of these things we're still filming. Some of them are ready to go. Okay, we have Yogi Beer. I played through everything available as Reaper. She is fun. That's referring to Either Fields or Tainted Grail, I assume. Native Scooby, I know you don't play KDM, but what do you think about the game? How's the genre fit with the rest of the board game space in general? Is KDM for the niche? I assume it is. KDM, I have no interest in the theme personally, and I have no interest in even if I love the game, that's just as much of a problem as if I don't like the game. The game space for KDM is completely overwhelming. It is often referred to as a lifestyle game, and I have too many games that are long enough as it is. I have no interest in KDM. I will eventually play it, I assume, but even when I eventually play it, I don't plan on... I don't know. I'd have to really love it to make time for it, to make time for KDM in my collection. That's why I like Wild Descent. Wild Descent gives me KDM light. I mean, in theory, I haven't played KDM. I'm just quoting Jeremy Howard in this. But yeah, I have no interest in KDM. And then the theme, again, the theme's going to be very specific. The theme is a turnoff for me, frankly. I'm willing to get past a theme that's a turnoff, but the theme is a turnoff. Riha Games, have a great show. Thank you, Riha. Nothing else, Robinson. Given that you game on Saturdays, don't you technically roll on Shabbos? Very well done. Very well done. So, and to those who don't know the reference, that's going to be a reference from The Big Lebowski. I don't roll on Shabbos. I don't roll on Shabbos. So I very much roll on Shabbos. That's true. Pacey, have you had any indication from Lazy Squire that Wild Descent will return to Kickstarter? Yes, they commented on my video. And they put an update in the look at the most recent update for Wild Descent. They are certainly coming back to Kickstarter. They have plans to come back to Kickstarter. Part of that was going to be contingent upon how well the game was received, but so far from the people who are playing it, it seems to be received well, myself included. I know I don't know if King Ravage has played it yet. I know Jeremy Howard has played it. So overall, if the game does well, then they plan on putting it back in Kickstarter. Basically, if people will back the game, they'll come up with an expansion. So that seems to be the situation going there. Levente, have you tried any Lacerda games? So I mentioned this earlier in the video, or earlier last video, because this is the second video apparently, but I have not tried any Lacerda games. I want to. I own 3. I definitely want to get them to the table. Logitech, top 3 most anticipated games of 2021. Ooh. I mean, that's mean. Do we count Kickstarters? Let me look at my Kickstarter list. The Witcher. The Witcher is going to be one that's on my list. Theurgy for sure. I'm looking at my tracking Kickstarters list. That's the fastest way to check here. We have, I mean, do we count Kickstarters, or that means it has to land in 2020? And I don't know. I did a video on this, both in terms of upcoming Kickstarters I'm excited about, as well as upcoming retail games. So you can check out both those videos. They'll have both of them. Jason Vanova, I gotta go. So just one more question. What epic board game, e.g. Tainted Grail, Cthulhu Death May Die, do you most want a second edition season 2 from? Cthulhu Death May Die. I'm very wary of the amount of content that comes in these games. Games that have episodic content that's not really as campaign based in its nature is going to be more things that I'm interested in. And so to that extent, Cthulhu Death May Die, I've played through everything but like one scenario. And I played through a bunch of them again as well. I'd love to get Cthulhu Death May Die. In fact, I plan on doing a series of Cthulhu Death May Die with Mina, with my wife, on the channel. Probably we'll do like a few on the channel and a few behind Patreon, so we'll figure out exactly how that works. Steve Martin, any thoughts on Timed Out by Yogi Bear? Oh, interesting. Thanks, Yogi Bear. I appreciate it. I'm not sure what's going on with Mr. Yogi Bear. I forgot you're a mod. Thank you so much for being on top of things. I appreciate it. Okay, sorry. Someone just I saw a little. I keep my eye on the chat because someone was doing some weird, nothing crazy, but they had a bunch of comments popping up, and Yogi Bear's on top of it. I appreciate it. Okay. So, Steve Martin, any thoughts on Gen Con changing the dates to September and on Yom Kippur? So, I do have thoughts on this one. Not particularly bothersome thoughts, but either way. So, effectively, Gen Con, for those who don't know, is going to be scheduled on Yom Kippur, which is the highest of holy days for Jewish people. Now, of multiple minds in the matter. So, first of all, in general, when the more people you can accommodate in any one of these large things, the better. Obviously, the more people you can accommodate. The second facet is that you're always going to be excluding people. No matter what you do, there's people who are excluded. So take myself, for instance. I'm a religious Jew, which means Saturday is already a problem. I may go to cons one day and it may be over the weekend, but if I do, I have to balance how not to do many different things on Saturday. There's always going to be people inconvenienced by what you pick. Now, that doesn't mean you should or shouldn't do Yom Kippur. It means that I appreciate anything Gen Con is willing to do. I'm for sure not going over to Yom Kippur, I can tell you that much. But whether I go otherwise, I don't even know. But I can know people who are Jewish in the publishing space who this is their livelihood, and they may not be able to go if it's Yom Kippur. So I appreciate the context for the fact that they may change it to be accommodating. I appreciate that. I think it's a balance. When do you sit there and say, if they don't change it, if it is on Yom Kippur, when do you sit there and say someone is wrong and not being sensitive and not including others, versus when do you sit there and say you can't make everyone happy, so what do you do? It's a complicated conversation. I don't have any long philosophical answers right now. It's a balance. I mean, first of all, patterns of behavior are going to be a thing. If you constantly see a certain person or segment, or in general, if you constantly see certain people neglected, then that should be focused on as well to make sure they're not always neglected. Am I personally bothered by the fact that Gen Con did it? Again, I think it'd be better if they didn't. If they did, I don't think it's necessarily straight up foul play, so to speak. It's just you can't always be accommodating to everyone. It is a balance. We should encourage as much inclusion as possible while being wary of turning things into just unsustainable in general. So balance, no amazing answers there. Craig B. Seems like all anybody talks about these days are Kickstarter games. What do you think the state of this hobby will be in 10 years? More Kickstarter. I think there's going to be more Kickstarter in 10 years for a variety of reasons. First of all is Kickstarter, I mean, COVID-19 has really made Kickstarter even more important to those who wouldn't have considered it otherwise. The fact that you now have a built-in marketing around your tool, people are excited about Kickstarter. How many channels talk about the games coming to Gen Con? How many channels talk about the games coming to Kickstarter? It's more for Kickstarter because Kickstarter is constantly in rotation. It's constantly a thing. It's not a single localized moment in time. I think Kickstarter will continue to be important. It'll be a big deal. I don't think it's ever going to take over retail, but I think it's going to continue to be a good chunk of what we talk about, what we're excited about, because it is good for the hobby. I mean, there's a reason Kickstarter games, I think, are the largest category of games. Kickstarter or tabletop is the largest category of anything on Kickstarter for a reason. So I think it's just going to be more of that. Sebastian Cato, you talk very fast. Yes, I do. I certainly do. That also helps with doing lots of videos. Perhaps it's a balance. We'll see. Eric SHM, love your content, Alex. We appreciate your work. I appreciate it, Eric. Thank you. Chris the Writer, Salt and Sail. I still don't know Salt and Sail. I didn't know Salt and Salt. I don't know Salt and Sail either. Martin Vitak, hello. As you know, on GameFound, you can filter games based on categories. I'd be interested in your top 10 games in each category. That would have to be a video on itself. I will see if I can take a note of that and jot it down. Sebastian Cater, doing your own board game, never or perhaps? Yes, I would love to do my own board game. I have 3 rule sets for board games written out, but it's going to be a down-the-road conversation. I simply don't have the time or commitment to play games that, well, are going to be bad, like my own game, because my own game will be bad until it's iterated and tested upon. And so it requires a lot of time to do it well, a lot of commitment, and I don't have those currently in my life because right now content creation is what I do with all my free time. So, well, board games, obviously, but content creation around board games. So eventually I would love to. I have ideas. but it's not going to happen anytime soon. Actually, I started a rule set for a fourth game that is actually solo based because I might be able to find time to playtest that, but still, I wouldn't expect anything at all. McVen, how did you manage your board game hobby when you first became a father? I have a 5-month-old daughter, and I really have to plan and make time to find energy to get a game to the table. So the short answer is get used to it, meaning I played a lot of games, and then we had kids, and every time we had kids, games got played less for a while after. But you recover, you bounce back, you get more time in your life. You eventually have, if you eventually get a second kid, those two distract each other. It's lots of fun. So you certainly will expect to see a hit or take a hit on your board game time when you have children. But you can schedule time. You can schedule evenings to play games. One of the nice things about doing content creation is sometimes I have to play a game. So even if it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm tired and I just want to be done with something and just watch a video, well, I have to film a review and I need to get 2 more plays in. So my wife and I'll sit down and play a game. And we never regret playing a game once we start. So that's another thing. Like, actually schedule and start a game. I have never once regretted playing. Well, some games are bad, but I don't regret the times when playing games when I'm otherwise, just tired and whatever. It's just getting into it. That's the hard part. Pacey, humble pie. I assume this is referring to my being willing to eat humble pie. That's what it was. Eat humble pie. Thank you. Okay. Matthias Menrath, did you hear about the Street Fighter dilemma for them charging VAT for last minute, even though they're not mentioned on the Kickstarter page? So I heard something about it. I don't know anything in detail, so I can't comment. I heard something recently about there being a delay and because of the VAT. I think I actually heard from Legion of Games. Legion of Games channel you should definitely subscribe to and be paying attention to. Calvin O'Conley, have you posted any content in relation to Mage Noir? I have not. I will likely be covering that next week because this week is not going to be a to-back or not to-back video because not enough new Kickstarters really launched. So next week's going to be a very busy video. This week's going to be something else entirely. Probably, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be filming it after this video, probably an upcoming late pledges video. Cavanoog, nope, that's King Lenitis. Hi, Lenny from Belgium. Hey, how's it going? Simmerjig, I never get this name right. Hi, Alex. I know you painted some of these before, but have the rest of the family ever expressed an interest in painting the miniatures? Yes, my wife and I painted together, and my kids would love to paint. Guess what I'm not interested in having my children do to my Blood Rage minis? I'm going to take a drink while you think on that. Paint them. You're right. I have no interest in painting my miniatures. So I do have some miniatures for them to paint and some extra brushes for themselves, but it's something that's an issue of time. Again, everything goes back to you have to pick where you spend your time. And for me, it's board games, family, work, and content creation, which means everything else has been pushed to the side until I can free up more time, which eventually will happen, hopefully. I would love this to be full time. I expect it to be a 5-10 year journey. Nathaniel Robinson, does any of the new gear interfere with normal gaming? The new gear, like the pole behind me over there, not really. All of it actually ensures that I'm playing more. The fact that I'm doing film playthroughs, meaning this is not where I game normally, to be clear. I game upstairs on a gaming table. This is an IKEA table that is a Gate Lake table. It's called the Norden Gate Lake table. And I play a lot more games now that I'm doing playthroughs with my wife because now we do playthroughs along with reviews. So, yay. Liberation Game Design. What is your favorite co-op game and why? Do you sometimes have issues with quarterbacking in that game? My favorite co-op game is going to be Cthulhu Death May Die. Is my highest ranked game that is also cooperative. I don't have issues with quarterbacking because my wife and I primarily play it together. And generally, when I play it with new players, I like to let them die and see how the game works that way. In general, Zombicide, Cthulhu Death May Die, people will be a lot more invested if they die and try to have to figure out how to have fun and how to better strategize. If you just tell people what to do, they're not going to want to play games with you. So it's just in your own best interest to not be an alpha player. Andrew Corliss, no, I'm so on the fence with Theurgy and I have to back my wallet. Andrew, if you like area control games, back Theurgy. I had one play of it. So even if I do content around it this week, it'll be a first impressions kind of review. But I had one game of Theurgy and it is absolutely, I have complaints. I'll get into it when I talk about it, but it's excellent. I think Theurgy is fast, amazing. I was not backing it before. I am backing it now. Sebastian Cater, do you ever feel that you haven't played a game enough to review it, but you do it anyways? So yes, I will, but I'll also say so. So for example, Carnegie can be a good example. Carnegie, I made a point of saying I've only got 2 plays under my belt. Now, by the way, there are times where I play a game twice and I will review it and not tell you that I played it twice because I don't always feel the need to tell it. If I feel I have a good handle on the game, I'll play it twice. Most of my reviews have more than 2 plays. Most of my reviews have between 3 to 5 plays before I do a review, sometimes more with campaign games or whatnot. And if I ever play it once, I've made a commitment to myself that if I play it once, I will tell you, even if I feel as good as I possibly can about it, I'd rather inform you. But there are times where I feel I need more plays, and I generally will make a note of it. So Theurgy is a good example of that. I played it once. I have complaints and things I love. Is it a game that's going to hold up after 3 plays? I think so, yes. But I played it once and I have complaints and things I love. So It's a balance. So I will, if I feel that I'm not equipped to be doing the review, if I feel that my opinion is not fully formed, then I will just say so in the review. I'll say that I'm doing more of a first impressions, or I need more plays. Usually it's time sensitive. So V Commando's Ghost is going to be another example. I got the prototype fairly recently. Sometimes people reach out to me and give me prototypes for games that are currently on Kickstarter, and I don't have enough time to dive into it because I got a 2-week heads up and I have other things scheduled. That's usually when I'll say, hey, I'm covering this, but also, less plays than I would ideally like. Symmetry, a new board game. Quick question. It's personal. You don't have to answer, but your wife always wears headscarves. Is it a religious thing, or does she just like them? So again, I shy away from very, very little things. Although emails are a little trickier. I got an email today from someone asking me about a whole bunch of religious questions, and it would have required like a good half hour of time to properly respond to them. So I basically said, hey, nothing personal. In person, I'd love to talk about these, but I'm not going to do an email conversation with a ton of nuance. But going back to your question, does your wife always wears headscarves? Yes. So she wears headscarves. When you don't see her wearing headscarves, she's not wearing her real hair. She's wearing what's called a shaitel, which is a wig. But generally, there's a concept in Orthodox Judaism of covering your hair. A married woman, for married women specifically, married woman will cover their hair. And so to that end, she's usually either wearing a headscarf, or when you see her with hair, it's fake hair. So that's what's going on there. Tuan Vian, hello from Japan. Do you have a favorite Japanese themed game? Maybe. No, I don't think so. I mean, Rising Sun is going to be leaving the collection. I'll be doing a video on that versus Blood Rage shortly. So I don't know if I have any Japanese themed games in my collection. Oh, Hanamakoji, although it might be Chinese. So forgive me if I'm wrong on the ethnicities. I don't know them as well as I should, but Hanamakoji is going to be my favorite Asian themed game. It is absolutely amazing. Andrew Corliss, KDM, I guess. Yes, I don't know. Thalis Lopez, about Death May Die, which Elder one do you recommend to buy? All of them. Absolutely all of them if you can. The Investigators, I think there's 10 Investigators gives you more variety, but I love the variety that comes from the mixing the Elder signs with the scenario packs. Kevin S., the stats of Dice Tower Top 100 you did very interesting. My question, where do you games like Monopoly and Clue come in the people's list? Everyone has played them and not everyone has played 100 games. So ultimately, the people's list is basically just a question of people voting themselves on what they want to include. So if people include Monopoly and Clue, then they'll be there. If they don't, they won't. So the people's list, I believe you submit only 25 games. I believe it's been a while since I did it myself, but you submit 25 games of your favorite games, and then the aggregate that's the most picked is what goes on that list. I believe that's how it's done. D3, AD, 4, and yes, does the second edition of Suburbia make the collector's edition a hard sell? No, the second edition gives you kind of a watered down collector's edition. So it gives you both. If I recall correctly, I only looked into it briefly, but I think it gives you part of the collector's edition, but not the full experience. Similar Duke, I know you have AltaQuest, but did you back HeroQuest at all? Were you interested in all? No and no. I mean, HeroQuest is probably good for the right person or nostalgia based. I have no nostalgia around HeroQuest, and I just don't assume it's going to be a good game. Jonas Carlson, greetings from Sweden. Have you tried Town Hazard? The game is out of print. If you have played it, what can you recommend that is similar to that game? I have not played it. It is out of print. I think games that are similar is going to be, I mean, I don't know because I haven't played it, but I know Unmatched and also an upcoming game, Bantam West, have that same location thing where you get printed on the board what location can see other locations in a very easy to follow way. Matasology, any news from Z Games about new Pandemic game? I don't know any news about that, but I mean, I did talk about this week, but Z-Man Games is sunsetting their Euro line, so that's news from Z-Man Games. Nathan Kaikis, how are you? Great, thank you. Andrew Colas, if things open up, such a funny thing. Okay, if things open up and people get vaccinated, are you planning to go to any conventions this year? Absolutely. As soon as I can, I will be going to conventions. As soon as they are, vaccination friendly or safe or whatever it is. I don't know if I'll be going to all of them. I have to balance it, but I would like to go to as many as I can. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, Andrew Corliss. Hi, Jonas. Okay, we have Mr. Morbius being, hidden, so I'm a few minutes behind, apparently. Silence More. If I'm interested in The Witcher also. This is my cue for being behind on the chat, apparently. Yes, I'm very interested in The Witcher. Okay. King Leonidas. Hey, Alex, have you played Terra Mystica ever? And what did you think about the game? I really love how this game is played. I have played Terra Mystica. It wasn't for me. I played it a few times. It's too thinky with not enough payoff. It makes you work too hard to get things done. I like when you get a lot of things done. I didn't love Terra Mystica after multiple plays. I do have Gaia Project. I want to play that. I think Terra Mystica falls in the category of, I mean, for me, it's a game. I'd probably rate it a 3. I enjoyed it, but it's a solid 3 out of 5, to be clear. But it's a solid game. I'd rather play other games. Kevin S., what game have you spent the most hours playing? I did a video on this, I think. Or was it most played? No, I did a video for most played. So most hours playing, I would check it up, but I can't because I am not checking up my stats. Because coming in June, my wife and I, our plan is to every June or July, whatever it is, we plan on doing a video of what we spent the most hours playing. And then at the end of every year, what games we played the most. So we're going to be doing a guessing game, basically back and forth, trying to figure out what we played. So I don't want to check my stats because that would cheat. Popsicle, saludos from Oaxaca, Mexico. Hi, how's it going? Pacey, how did you meet your wife? Short version is I dated from a religious stance in terms of Orthodox rules, so I reached out to matchmakers. I had a variety of matchmakers I worked with. I would date different girls. We'd see if we aligned in both, what we like as well as what we're looking for in life. And my wife was the 13th girl I dated in a year. It's very focused. You're dating for marriage. You're not dating for fun. You're dating for marriage. And of course, you will have fun too. You should like the person you meet, just to be clear. Matchmaking doesn't always have love attached to it. The matchmaking I went to very much does have, love, infatuation, call it what you will. My wife was the 13th person I dated through a matchmaker, and we liked each other a lot. And we got engaged 4 weeks later. So, let that blow your mind if you haven't heard the story already. And by the way, 4 weeks later is not the fastest that I know for people I know. So yeah, that was, and 10 years later, we're still here with 4 kids. Yay. Cardcun, just saying hi from Japan. Is AltaQuest, people love AltaQuest. Geez, I need to play AltaQuest apparently. So is AltaQuest to keep in your collection? I can see on your shelves. I need to play AltaQuest because apparently is the game that I get the most questions on whether I am keeping it, playing it, my review. So I guess I need to play it. Apparently, I read the rules. It's all set up, ready to go. The problem is I want to play it a good chunk of time before I review it, and that is a commitment. So I need to get to it. Not to know, Robinson, to what extent do you multitask when you're working or planning content? To every extent. I always have. So first of all, I subscribe to a lot of content creators just to know what's going on in the space in general. Also, just know content creators. And to that end, I always will have someone else's video. I'll be watching a League of Games video. I'll be watching a Shelf Clutter video, a Game Brigade video, a Quackalope video in the background when I'm planning my content, when I'm sitting there and saying, you know what? I just played Aquatica 3 times. By the way, I just played Aquatica for the first time yesterday 3 times with expansion. I'll be getting some more plays in, having a review for that. And I'll start jotting down notes. Okay, so what did I like? What did I not like? How do I want to structure this review? For me, my reviews are also an interesting conversation because right now it's a balance between, I have a format that I've been using, but I'm also trying to mix it up. But sometimes when I mix it up, I feel it doesn't flow as well. So I'm trying to experiment to just be things not as always exactly consistent. But yeah, I'm always multitasking. Symmetry, when expos and conventions start up, would you ever visit Europe to attend any? So I'm going to start with the US-based ones just because cost, practically speaking, but I would definitely like to go internationally as well. I just need to balance the cost and what makes sense or whatnot. I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. JJ the Great, are you going to post both videos of this live stream or only this one? That's a great question. I don't know. I'd love to combine them if I could. I don't know how I plan on handling it. YouTube stats messes with you, so I may end up deleting the first one, practically speaking. And in fact, I'd also say, by the way, we're at the 36-minute mark. So if this does cut out for unknown issues, it was fun. And there will not be another video after this because I'm not, with 36 minutes in plus 7 minutes another one, that's enough that I'm not going to restart a stream. Okay. Popsicle, any thoughts on Heroes of Normandy? It's on Kickstarter now. Heroes of Normandy. Yes, I will be covering that one. I have Heroes of Stalingrad. That was recommended to me as the one to try, so I have that one for myself. Haven't actually played it yet, but I will be covering the Heroes of Normandy next week, I believe. Okay, we have Dan Justin, BoardGameCo. Do you pay more for someone's game if it has painted miniatures, 3D party inserts, metal coins? Okay, so this is a question about BoardGameCo, the retail operation. Do we pay more for extra stuff? Short answer is yes, but likely not to market value. And part of that's we have to make money. So if the market value of a 3D insert would add $30 to it, we might increase our price by like $10 because we have to make money on that. And also because the extras we find don't hold their value to the degree I like. Someone may pay, a Gloomhaven insert might cost you $80. We can't sell the game for $80 more, unfortunately, practically speaking. So you might get an extra $15, $20 for your $80 Gloomhaven insert from us. So yeah, we pay more, but not to the market value. TT for Life, Ameritrash or Eurocame? At first instinct is Ameritrash, but really I like hybrid more. Hybrid games like Kemet, Kemet, Cyclades, Blood Rage, all of those, Theurgy now, those are going to be my go-to in general. Clive Bixby, hey Alex, you are the best. You got me in Kickstarter. Now I'm very poor, but very happy. I feel torn on that one. I mean, it's a balance. That's why I try to do both content. I feel like I'm always devil's advocating my own stuff because on the one hand, I end up being a pitch man for a hype man for all these Kickstarters. On the other hand, I put up videos on how to not get Kickstarters, how to not be pulled in by the hype because it's a balance. I am very much pulled in by the hype, but I also try not to be. So I end up getting more than I should, but less than I could. More than I should, but less than I could. That should be a t-shirt or something like that. Anyways, Liberation Game Design. Are you considering co-designing your first board game as you don't have enough time to do it alone at the moment because of your content creation? No, absolutely not. If or when I do a board game, I want it to be a labor of love. I don't want it to be, oh, Alex from BoardGameCo is doing a board game. So I want to be involved. I don't mind like, co-designing in the sense of having someone else manage playtesting or whatnot, but I want to be heavily involved to a way that my time would not permit right now, even if it were being done with somebody else. Veliko Gatonovic. Apart from board games, do you have any other big interest or hobbies? Coffee. I like coffee. I have a lot. I mean, had a lot. In the past, I've I've drawn. I actually draw. I have some pretty cool drawings, actually. I can draw very well. I have magic, juggling. Let's see what else is there. I don't know offhand what else there is. Contact juggling. I've had a lot of hobbies over the years, but the only one that currently dominates my life, miniature painting, the only one that currently dominates my life is going to be board games. Dave, are you going to start covering GameFound like you cover Kickstarter? Absolutely. So Indiegogo and GoFundMe or whatever it is, I consider to be tangential. I don't plan on really covering those unless it's a big enough thing. But GameFound and Kickstarter, I consider to be the future of the space. And so for right now, both of those will be covered. Peter Zalen, thoughts on Merchants of the Dark Road? I want it. I backed it. I'm very excited about those metal coins, but I have not played it. Crewmeister, have you tried any 18x games? I realize you don't cover any 18x Kickstarters. You're right, I don't, because I haven't. I played Chicago Express, which is like a miniaturized 18x game. I just haven't played them, not for lack of interest, just for they're dry. I need someone to like pull me into that hobby. I'm not against it. I just haven't been pulled in myself. Fiona the Board Gamer, hi from Malaysia. Hi. Andre, will you be doing a video on Company of Heroes? I don't know, but that one, Company of Heroes was on Kickstarter a while ago, right? It's coming now, so I haven't played that one or backed that one. Successful Geek, what is your favorite co-op card game? So cheating answer instinctively, I might have others, but cheating answer instinctively is going to be Marvel Champions, but I don't actually play that co-op most of the time. Although I would argue Primal might be my favorite co-op card game. Don't get me wrong, Primal is very much a card game. It has a board, very much a card game. Peng Yang, your love of Blood Rage made me get it. I love your reviews. I have a large game group, so I made photocopies of the player boards and made 6-player homemade expansions. Awesome. Good for you. I would not want to play Blood Rage 6-player. 5 players is good. 4 players for me is the sweet spot for Blood Rage. Monica, hey from Norway. How's it going? Alex, hello from UK. Hi. JJ the Great. Hanamakoji is Japanese. Excellent. I'm glad I did not. I'm always wary because it's one of these things that I really genuinely in the past have taken it. What's the big deal? Japanese, Chinese, my intent is not a big deal. But it's more complicated than that. It is more complicated when somebody else, if somebody said, hey, I don't know, Jewish, Buddha, like, what's the big deal? Like, I'd be like, I wouldn't be offended by it. I wouldn't really care, but I just think, hey, dude, you're a little ignorant in that. Like, maybe check into it. So it's a balance between the casualness of not taking accuracy seriously, but also trying to be accurate when it's respectful of other people. This applies to when I butcher names, by the way. When I butcher the pronunciation of a publisher's name, a comment is one thing. I'm not researching the name of every comment from someone, but a publisher's name, I should get it right in theory. I don't, and I'm not saying I'm going to take the time to research it. Most of the time, I realize that I don't know the name when I'm about to say it mid-review. But it's something that ideally there's a degree of respect tied to getting things correctly. Clive Bixley, do you plan to do a video on content creators' impact on board game publishers? Maybe the example of Z-Man canceling the Euro line and mentioning this, sit down in the post. I think they're wrong. I think, so just to give context, so quick context, Z-Man Games canceled the Euro line and they made a little snippy comment about how you have to, have English reviewers have to pay attention to your game for it to do well. Well, guess what? Shut Up and Sit Down have reviewed 150 games on their channel, 150 YouTube videos. How many games have done well? Because it's more than 150. So I think that it came across as pretty bitter. Shut Up and Sit Down definitely do have giant sway, but then again, Etherfields is doing just fine too. So it's not, I think giving too much credence to a single person is a mistake. Now, I think it's very possible that games will go under the radar, but I think games going under the radar is almost worse than a bad review of a game. Bad reviews of a game, people are still paying attention. Good reviews are the best. I think bad reviews are next, and just no one paying attention is probably the worst for games. But I think content creators will have an impact on the board game space. I would love to see more people. This is biased, obviously, because I want to be one of them, but I'd love to see more channels be larger and have more of a voice. So we're not looking at Dice Tower, Shut Up and Sit Down as like the 2 primary sources. No respect. No disrespect to either. I think they're both great. Just it would be great to have more large voices so it's not as binary. Then again, the video game space is not that small either. We have a handful of large sites, 5-6 sites that hold mass traffic for what is a much larger space than ourselves. So it's a balance. Monica, such a funny thing. I watched your deluxification video today. Awesome. Carson, good morning, Alex. I just got a real deal on Black Trade Kickstarter stuff with somebody yesterday. What's your favorite combination or mix of expansions to play with? I would say base game, but throw in the Deadeye Walkers and throw in the Wolves. That is my favorite way. And then after that, you'll iterate around the various heroes you use and the abominations you use. But I just like it. The plain Walkers, Runners, and Fatties alone is just not enough to hold my interest. Miguel, have you played Our Stay since you love SFB? I do have Our Stay on my shelf underneath over there. Haven't played it yet. Definitely need to play it along with a lot of other games. Kevin, what's your favorite sport? Ooh, favorite sport. Now, here's where you get me off guard here. Sports. I don't like most sports. They're not bad. I just not the ways I want to spend time. I can't skate well enough for hockey. I skate. I just don't skate well enough for hockey. I don't, what's it called? I like football. Football's pretty fun. Basketball, I don't like at all. I find it tedious and boring. Football might be my favorite. Baseball is a little boring as well. I like hitting the ball, but I don't like anything else about baseball. So probably football is my favorite sport, but keep in mind, take favorite with a grain of salt. I don't like any sports really, unless you talk about like offshoots of not really sports. So, I don't know. Golf, I don't like golf. I don't like, why do I even say golf? I have no idea. Cody Sims, did you see the final Terraforming Mars 3D tiles? If so, what do you think about them or the backlash about their look? I thought they were just fine for a mass-produced product. I thought they looked fine, but I never expected them to look like the renders. I mean, people shouldn't expect things to look like the renders. That is not how Kickstarter works. Monica, mostly solo games. So I don't have a rush for things to open up, though I do attend 2 events a year. One is already canceled. I'm sorry. It's I think it's sadder for people who are used to going to conventions. I never went to conventions. I want to now that I'm a content creator, but for me, it's the lack of something I never got to experience. For others, it is a lack of their regular thing they look forward to. Like for myself, I take a 3-day vacation every year with my wife to Ravenwood Castle, which is a board game owned castle, so to speak. And we play board games for 3 days and watch movies. That's all we do. Eat food, play board games, watch movies 3 days straight. And we can't do that this year because you'd have to wear masks the entire time and you'd have to be more isolated. And I don't want that. It's not as much of a vacation. So we're skipping it. And it's sad. So that's going to be what conventions are for many people, the thing they look forward to that they can't do. Simadrig, thanks for the previous answers. I watched you both review Armor and compare it to Crokinole. Now I look to buy Crokinole. It's around 280. Would you say it's better to buy Armor on Kickstarter? So you can get Crokinole from Mayday often for around $150 for a cheaper board. A good Crokinole board will be expensive. Don't get me wrong. The same way a good Armor board is expensive. Now, so just for context, Armor, first of all, Armor is a ton of fun. It is a surprising amount of fun. Looking at it is so silly, but I had multiple people this weekend watching me and Rena play and then being like, that's silly. And then they one at a time walked in and started playing and are addicted to it. Overall, the consensus in our house is that Crokinole is the better game, but Arma is more entertaining and frustrating and fun at the same time. So that's where we are. Arma is actually, I did not expect it to like it as much as I did. I thought it'd be fine and I'd move on from it and I'd own this nice board that's great, but maybe I'll sell it down the road. I have no intention of selling that board. I am very happy that I have the board. I'm not getting a final production copy, but it is a final production copy. So I'm very excited about the Arma board. I'm very excited that I own it and it's just fun. It's crazy fun. Does anyone need Crokinole or Arma? No, it's hard. I think if you prefer a better game, get Crokinole. If you prefer more fun, hilarity, and frustration, get Arma. Okay, let's see. JJ the Great. But Gaia Project is even more thinking than Terra Mystica. Its mechanics are more integrated as well as the tech trees. So yes, it is, and I'm worried. I've debated getting rid of Gaia Project without playing it because I don't love Terra Mystica. But I feel I should try it once it's here. It's a good enough game, and it's one of the top 100. And I try to play as many games in the top 100 as I can. Yes, I know I already said that I have no intention of playing Robinson Crusoe. As many as I can that I have an interest in. Monica, what's the biggest purchase you've done in one go? Biggest, most expensive game or many games at once? Possibly Storm Thunder. Storm Thunder coming in, depends if you count all one go with the airbrush, whatever it is, but Storm Thunder comes in at like a $700 purchase when you get everything airbrushed. That's likely the most expensive purchase I've made for myself on a singular basis. So Storm Thunder, I really hope I like it, or if not, I'll be selling it because that's what I do. Dimitri Salas, greetings from Greece. I'm enjoying Clueless May Die thanks to you. Awesome. I'm so happy when people get games that I recommended and like them. I'm so sad when people get games that I recommended and don't like them because then I feel guilty, even though I shouldn't feel guilty. I'm just telling you what I like. But I had the board game ramblings, got Cyclades, because I talked about how much I liked it. And then they played and they were like, it's fine. It's not our game. And I'm like, no, Cyclades is so good. Peter Zalen just got Gaia Project a few days ago, played about 8 times solo already. So good. Maybe I should play it solo. Intriguing. Just a girl who games. What do you know about the Witcher gameplay? Sorry if you've already answered this. I'm late to the live video party. So I don't know much about the Witcher gameplay. They do have a YouTube channel where they are doing developer diaries, and you will see a lot more. So I do know a little bit about it, not well enough to talk about it comprehensively, enough to know that I'm interested, but also not convinced. So that is the Witcher. But check the channel out. They have like 5 or 6 developer diaries, all entertaining. Right, Raw Kyle, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a fine, catch me a catch. That's from Fiddler on the Roof. Okay, it also means I'm behind again. I always realize how late I am. Actually, I'm not that far behind. I'm behind. Monica, do you bring games for trips? Which are your go-to travel games? I do bring games for trips. Depends where I'm going. If I'm going to Toronto to visit my family, which I haven't done in over a year now, then I bring a decent full bag full of just a variety of games that I plan on playing that weekend. Most of the time, my traveling is business related, which means I don't have that much time, which means I'll usually grab a few button shy games that will not take up much space. I don't like dedicating extra space to games that I then don't play. So dedicating a few little bit of space is a different story. Pacey, 4 weeks later engagement. Congrats on 10 years. I really appreciate your responses and honesty and content. Your newest Patreon. Carry on. Thanks. Thank you so much. Let me see. Did I get a notification of Patreon? I get it at some point. Either way. Okay. Let me go back to my live stream because I lost that tab. Kevin S. I'm loving Alta Quest 8.5 out of 10. Also, don't use the rulebook. It makes perfect sense until you start actually playing the game. I use the BG tutorial. Ooh. Ooh, can you shoot me a link to the BGG tutorial? Because I would love to. The rulebook was, I mean, I mostly got the game, but also felt not completely on top of it, which is one of the reasons I didn't actually start it. Eric SHM, does Canada, Toronto, your hometown count as international spot? I mean, it does. It's international. Oh, do I ship internationally? Is that the question? Because it definitely counts as shipping internationally. Sorry. Jalasi Gasson, do I buy the original Kemet or wait for Kemet Blood and Sand? At this point, wait for Kemet Blood and Sand, because either Kemet Blood and Sand is so good that you'll want that one, in which case save your money, or it's so good and people are dumping the original copy and you don't really care what the difference is, in which case you can get an original copy for cheaper. So either way, I'd wait. Monica, yay, coffee. That's absolutely true. This is not coffee, by the way. I already had my coffee this morning, and it's too early. I don't have coffees back to back. I have at most 3 coffees a day, usually one in the morning, one in the afternoon, sometimes one midday. BJ Hell, I just want to say that I'm happy to have found your channel. Your economic view on backing board games is refreshing. Will probably end up saving me some money. So yes, I will save you money, but I also get hyped and excited about games I like. And if a game is a good back, then I'm hyped and excited and I don't hold back. If I believe I can get my money back if I don't like the game, I do not hold back. So I will cost you money too. Just understand that it's a two-way street. Let's see. Cat Tank Block. Any thoughts on the Oniverse games? I love the Oniverse games. They're right over here. Do you see them? They're right down here. I have all 5 of them, but I don't have Urbion, so I have 5 of 6 of them. I love all of them, or I love some of them. I like all of them. I like all of them enough to continue owning them, at least for now. Alex Kaiser, are you into any TCGs, LCGs? Do you end up playing old data CCGs that you wish were remade? So I avoid CCGs like the plague. I used to play Magic the Gathering a lot, but I avoid them like the plague nowadays. LCGs, I love Marvel Champions. I love Arkham Horror too, but I didn't have room for both in my mental space of gathering, collecting, developing, whatever. So I moved on from Arkham Horror, the card game. I actually put that into a video of the 10 best games I don't own for a reason. For that, I think it was number 1. Cardcon, thanks and good night. Good night. Mark, realistically, what do you believe should be a board gamer's target amount to back? I try to limit to around 21 per year, but not by value, as I know if I do that, I'd fail badly. So my answer is very specific, and it always has been, and it will show up in other videos as I talk about this. The amount of games you should acquire is equal to what you realistically can play. That's basically it. So for instance, let's take myself. I'm on track. If 2021 continues in the current ratio, I'm on track to play 250 new games this year. My entire collection of games I own is 250 games. I can't possibly add that many games to my collection. Now, a lot of these are going to be publisher games, so that I'm getting more games in, but that means I have to be more cutthroat about what I'm willing to keep. Don't back more games than you can play. Pick the best that appeal to you. And I mean, unless of course you just want to collect. If you want to collect, do what you want to do. But if you want to play them, then ask yourself, how many Kickstarters do you currently play? How many big epic new games do you play when they come in? Do you play one every 2 weeks? Well, then don't get more than 24 games a year. Balance what you acquire with what you consume so that you can figure out from there. And then what you keep is a whole different calculation. But it's all messy. We're mostly addicted, but we have to balance it. Cat Technoblock, what board game genres have we yet to see kid-friendly introductions to them? Have we yet to see a kid-friendly introduction to them that we have yet to see? I haven't seen KDM for kids yet. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. We've seen Legacy Game for kids. I don't know what other genres there'd be. I mean, 18xx games for kids, I haven't seen. That would definitely be a fun one. War games for kids, haven't seen. I mean, there definitely are some, but I'm not sure if we should see them. So we'll see. Legacy for games for kids was a nice introduction. I'm happy we did that. Symmetry, would you ever do an 80s retro board game feature? I don't mean Warhammer, but perhaps some other games at the time, Dark Worlds, Crossbows, and Catapults. I don't know if I have enough that I'm interested in to cover it and do anyone any favors. It's an interesting thing that, like with my reviews, I've noticed that when I'm really passionate as to why I don't want to game my collection or why I do want to game my collection, I like my reviews. When I'm kind of just like, this game was good but not great, I find my reviews lack enthusiasm. Good examples of this are going to be Santa Monica and Court of Miracles, 2 totally fine games that I just wasn't pulled in by, but I also don't have any real complaints about them. I find that's when I kind of find this middle line of just not being invested in the review the way I want. I need to figure out how to do those reviews, because I want to be able to cover a review and say it's fine, but I also want my video to be interesting and not sound like I've tapped out, and by the way, this might be my own bias and perception as to how those reviews went, but when I'm middle of the road is when I don't, whatever. Okay, Sam Howe, what's your view on Kickstarter exclusive gameplay items as compared to deluxeified items not going to retail? Do you think it's okay to penalize non-backers away instead of just charging more? 100% I do. 100% penalize non-backers away. So first of all, the difference between charging more and penalizing non-backers is semantics, because almost everything you can acquire on the secondhand market if you're willing to pay the price. So cost is ultimately the penalty on the table either way. It's not about exclusives. Tell me a game you want, I guarantee you I can find it. It's just a question of the cost of that game, the cost of acquiring it. So either way, it comes down to cost. As far as the penalty aspect, it's a balance. In a perfect world, you'd put out a Kickstarter and not do anything exclusive, and great. But then in that perfect world, I'd recommend every single one of you to not get it on Kickstarter, get it at retail. So if we want a Kickstarter project to succeed, you have to give people a reason to jump in now. So I understand why it shouldn't exist, but then Kickstarter won't exist. So it is an inherent problem attached to what we want to see in the space. So I'm for them while understanding the problems around them. Mark Berger, video idea, an age guide for introducing kids to board games. So that's tricky. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. And I have it on my list, but it's tricky because I did one of these videos once and I got a lot of comments saying, those aren't kids games, Alex. Those are adult games. What are you talking about? And it was literally games I recommend for ages 5+. And I included like Meeple Circus and Potion Explosion and a bunch of other games. And half of these games, people were like, they're just adult games. Who are you playing with a 5-year-old? And I realized I probably have a bias because I play a lot of games and a lot of games with my kids. And my 5-year-olds are playing, my 5-year-old, who's now 6, is playing Potion Explosion and Meeple Circus with us and having fun. So I have to do it, but I want to do it, but I want to do it in a way that doesn't tell people to buy a game that their kids are not going to be able to play. So it's a balance. Cat Tuck the Block. In your mind, what determines a game's timelessness? Ooh, it's a great question. What makes a game timeless? I don't have any good answers. I don't know what games. I mean, so there's a video. One of my favorite videos from Man vs. Meeple is going to be a video game of 10 modern classics, top 10 modern classics, where they talked about games that they believe they consider to be modern classics, games that are like within the past 5 years or so, but are now evergreen, so to speak. Games like Blood Rage, games like Terraforming Mars, games that are fairly recent, games like Gloomhaven, but they have now become evergreens. What makes a game timeless? I don't have a good answer off the cuff. Carson Simmons, after your deluxe edition video, I finally broke down and bought all the Quacks upgraded bits. I apologize. You see, this is what I'm saying. I will both make people buy, I will inspire people to spend money they shouldn't, and I'll inspire people to spend money, to save money they should. So it goes both ways. Go Trek 992. What do you wish to be the next Zombicide theme? Pirate Zombicide. Absolutely. I talked about this in the video. Pirate Zombicide sounds great. Konstantin Klumbovsky. There was a last call on Dead Reckoning Pledge Manager and late pledges. How do you feel about it half a year later? Still have to bring it to the table. Short version, I plan on getting Dead Reckoning. Long version, I'm not backing for the Kickstarter. That's a more complicated conversation. Effectively, I didn't like the way they handled it, so I'm making a quote-unquote statement. But if you like it, get the game. And also keep in mind, I'm biased. I run BoardGameCo. I will get the game. I guarantee you it's going to show up in my hands, the Kickstarter version of the game. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So for me, I'm going to get Dead Reckoning either way. I just didn't back it. For you, back Dead Reckoning. Have fun. It's a good game. It's a really good game. Jelassi Gosson, do you know any war board games like Twilight Imperium but played in less time and cost less? So obviously Still Hours is going to be on Kickstarter now. Supposedly it's going to play in 2 hours. I don't know if that's true. Last Light is not going to be as complex, but it is going to give you, Last Light's not on Kickstarter yet. It will be on Kickstarter later this year from Grey Fox Games and Roy Kennedy, but it will give you a, solid, I played it. I've played the full game in an hour and a half with Teach on TTS for a 4X game with like 5 players. Monica Alida for Cell. My favorite sport is swimming. I'm a competition swimmer. Ooh, I like swimming more than football. Okay. Black Kitty Knits. What is TOG? What is TOG? Not Tainted Grail. What is TOG? I have no idea what TOG is. Okay. Edgar Townsend. Hi, Alex and Chili. Thanks for helping me to manage my collection and the finance and board games. Happy to help. I'm enjoying this way too much. Speaking of enjoying this way too much, it's 11:06, which means I'm going to be trying to wrap this up shortly. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Where are we? Cat Talking Box, do you know about board games that tackle mental health issues and other topics like depression without being a trivia game? So that's a fun question. So I actually had someone reach out to me recently to cover a game that covered mental health issues. And I thought it was a great idea. The art was gorgeous. The theme was great. I can't speak from it from a therapist stance, whether it's doing help, harm, or neither. But my problem with it was the gameplay didn't look like my type of gameplay. It looked like a very common trope in Kickstarter games, which is, someone puts out a game that's just card play. It's just like Exploding Kittens or any of these games that just have a ton of card play back and forth and not a fully developed game around it. Now, keep in mind, this is my impressions. I don't mean it's a bad game at all. I don't know, but I tend to avoid purely card-based games from non-established publishers because they tend to be falling into the, hey, this is easy to make and sell category. But it looked cool. I would love to see more about them. I'd love to see them done well, but inherently they can only be done well if they consult with, therapists and whatnot. So professionals in the field, effectively. You can't just say, hey, I have a good idea of how to stop people from committing suicide. Let's do this board game. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Black Kitty Knits. Hanokoji is Japanese. Excellent. Wolangaza. Haste. Have you looked at Micro Macro Crime City? I feel like I'm missing words here because this is full of typos. I'm sorry. I don't know what Micro Macro Crime City is, and there's enough typos in your sentence that I don't understand it. Chad Technivoc. Cat Technolock. How many board game themes do you explore stuff? How many board game themes that explore stuff like depression, anxiety, dementia, dealing with death of loved ones, like in video games? It feels like a non-existent in the board game space. It does feel non-existent in the board game space. I'd love to see more of it, but it has to be done well. There's games like Tainted Grail that will deal with like heavy topics, but the question is when you deal with things that are more sensitive and actually from a therapist stance, and this goes back to what I said, you need a professional involved. Jason the Great, what do you think about the Stardew Valley board game? I never played Stardew Valley, so I wasn't interested in the board game, but I mean, I'm seeing mixed opinions. I'm seeing people say they really like it. I'm seeing people saying that it's okay and more of a IP cash grab, but not IP cash grab. That's unfair. An IP game that is good but not great. JJ the Great. Nope, not the one. Peter Zellen. The Automa and Gaia seems finicky at first, but after half a game, I hate automas. I'm really not a huge fan of automas in general. I like objectives in solo games, not so much automas, but at least not yet. Carson Simmons. I'm starting to cull, but I'm conflicted. Culling games on the shelf. A shame that I haven't got to the table because of the pandemic. How often have you moved from a game without playing it? In general, I cull about maybe 10 games a month. I probably 1 out of every 20 is going to be a game that I just realize I'm not playing. I have to be certain that I'm not playing the game anytime soon, that there's just my interest level or my group's interest level in the game is just not there. There will be games I call that I haven't played. It happens, but it tends to be the exception, not the rule. Alex Yang, yay, I'm able to leave a chat. I don't know what that means. Are you leaving the chat or are you leaving a comment? I don't know what that means. Cody Simmons, what is your favorite of the West Kingdom series? My favorite is likely Architects. I actually just got it back to try it again. I actually got rid of all of them. I tried them all so far. I haven't played the newest. I haven't played Viscounts, but all the other ones I tried and moved on from. But I got back Architects because Architects, I like the core mechanic enough that I want to try it again. Eric S. Gem, a big coffee lover myself as well. I've seen quite a few games that are providing coffee in the board games. Yes, I want all of them. I want to try all the coffee-themed board games. Some will be good, some not. Vindication has... Oh, you're talking about actual coffee. Vindication has actual coffee, not a coffee-themed game. No, I'm not getting that. I like my coffee as is. I don't need Vindication's coffee. But coffee-themed games, absolutely. Emil, all I'm going to say before I knew the channel, I had 0 backs. Now I have 5 all-in pledges. I am so sorry, Emil. It's a dangerous world. It's a dangerous world we live in. It's a real... another video I have coming up at some point is why Kickstarter is the best addiction. Speaking of which, it's a good tie-in. One of the reasons I've held off on doing this video, why Kickstarter is the best addiction, is because while I plan on doing the video, I'm also torn between, is it potentially flippant to call something the best addiction and to literally talk about the dopamine aspect of Kickstarter? There's literal an addiction behind Kickstarter and the way it works. And so I'm celebrating that addiction, which might be a problem. So I want to be able to handle that well. I might get pushback. Hopefully I balance it, and I'll probably start off the video with a disclaimer about how addiction is bad, and this is not meant to be advocating for anything, but it's specifically the sensitivity to mental health why I keep pushing off that video. Sebastian Cater, can you film your next Wild Ascent play? So I do have planned to film Wild Ascent. I don't plan on doing it right now, but it's on my list to film some Wild Ascent. I don't want to jump in straight in the middle. I think it'll be overwhelming. I'd rather start in the beginning. The flip side is the first game is less interesting because half the fun is in the level up. But then if you jump in mid-campaign, I think it would still be uninteresting because you wouldn't know what's going on. But it does develop more and more the more you play it. But I do plan on doing a gameplay of it. Monica Alita, how big is your collection at the current stage? Do you know how many games are coming in with the next month? So for right now, I currently, and this is something I've pivoted for, I currently only count the games I actually play and have decided to own when I count my collection. The reason for that is because as I've been doing more and more content creation, I get more and more games from publishers, games that I may or may not keep or likely won't keep in many cases. And it's my unplayed games have really jumped up because of my shift from a gamer to a content creator. So I try to focus only on the played aspect. To that end, I have roughly 250 games in my collection that I've played and I've chosen to keep, and I always have games coming in at any given point. Kickstarters I've backed and games from publishers that I need to cover for one reason or another. Successful Geek, excited you love Marvel Champions. I'm going to learn my copy this week. I do love Marvel Champions Successful. In fact, if you like Marvel Champions, get Primal if you haven't already. Alex Yang, question coming late to the Sea of Legends, just released this month. What was the reason you didn't back it? Isn't the app just simply a replacement for the Book of Narratives? Potentially, but I believe the app is required, and I just don't like that. And I would like to keep an eye on it. I plan on paying attention to it and potentially picking up secondhand. But the app was enough of a reason for me to say, you know what, I'm out for now. If the game gets rave reviews, I'll check it out. I'm not averse to checking it out, but it was enough for me to not back it. And Mel Bermanak, temptations are everywhere. Yes, they are. Monica, don't back more games than you play. Whoops. Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. I aim for it. I don't always hit it. Alex Rang, you read books for narrative flavor text. What's the difference between book versus app? Both require you to take eyes off from the board. So I don't like it when I don't love it. I shouldn't say I don't like it. I'm not a huge fan of the interruption of the gameplay to read something. I do it. I do it in ISS Vanguard. I do it in Ether Fields. I'm willing to do it. I don't love it. It's not something that I'm a huge fan of. And I do find that an app is more distracting. Punching in the app, pulling whatever. I find an app is something that screams we're not at the game table. I will use it sometimes, but it's just a personal thing. Also, by the way, there's a religious aspect too. Anything that requires an app means I can't play it on Saturday. I can't play it this upcoming weekend I have where I'm going to be offline Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and can't touch any apps or phones or electronics. Those games are off the table. So it's another thing as well. That's a religious reason why they're not for me. Yogi Bear, My Little KDM. My Little KDM would do excellent. What's his name? Poots should get on that. Clive Bixby, super interesting to see the conscious approach with the campaigns for The Witcher and Stellaris. One bringing content 2 months for the start of the campaign. The other is Stellaris. Yes, exactly. There is a difference. And I think Stellaris really shot themselves in the foot in the way they handled it. Then again, it's a $2 million campaign, so shot themselves in the foot is a relative term. Sam Van McLeckby, if you trade your games, where do you usually do this? Because it seems like I'm looking at the wrong place. So I trade my games primarily. Trading is almost exclusively on Board Game Geek. Selling, I do a hybrid. I sell on Facebook groups like Board Game Revolution, buy, sell, trade, whatever it is, or on eBay. Or the cheaper games, I send off to BoardGameCo myself for them to be liquidated there. But anything expensive, Kickstarter-wise, I liquidate myself just before shipping it to a warehouse, shipping it away, because those usually sell pretty easily. But trading is almost exclusively Board Game Geek. You can do it on Reddit. You can do it on Facebook groups. I find Board Game Geek to be the best place to trade your games. Pacey, do your relatives understand your job? How much do you have to explain what you do at a party, or do you lie? When you say job, do you mean board game content creation or my actual day job? Because the answer to both is no, they don't. So I mean, my relatives play board games, but I mean, the idea of saying I'm a YouTuber, I try not to. I don't say that. It's a weird thing to me to be like, oh yeah, I'm a content creator on YouTube and I do videos. It's a weird. It's not anything I ever expect to do with my life. It's not something I really explain. My family knows I have a YouTube channel. They occasionally comment and watch the videos where I sing and then make fun of me, but it's all fun and games. Will and Gonzo, what is your view on Time Stories? Bought the set with all expansions secondhand, but yet to try it. I don't like Time Stories, but lots of people do. Lots of people love Time Stories. I did not like Time Stories at all, unfortunately. I played it once and was like, I'm never doing this again. So I was just not interested. Monica, Alita, do you receive any prototypes to play? I received my first one this year, having designed myself constantly on BBG. That's so much fun. Monica, who's Monica? What's your channel? Do you have a channel? Instagram? What do you do? Yes, I do have prototypes. So I get a lot of prototypes from various designers, Kickstarters, whatnot. And that's anytime you see me covering something for a Kickstarter, it's inherently a prototype. Clive Bixby, do you have any thoughts about Red Rising, the board game? Yes, I was completely uninterested because Stonemaier games in general have not been interesting to me. I'm always intrigued and they always let me down. But I actually watched before you playing Red Rising, and it looked like the kind of game that I enjoy playing with my wife. So I hope to review that one when I have an opportunity. Monica, do you have at least one game in each of the letters from A to Z? I have no idea. I have to think about it. I assume look at the X's to see if I'm missing something. I don't have Ja. I don't have any X's, but maybe not. It's also not a goal for me. I'm never going to get a game because it starts with a letter. That's not a reason for me to own a game. Pat Pachizo, Kickstarter's becoming too expensive. I just received someone Solomon Kane 3 years ago for $140. I have 2 gigantic boxes. Kickstarter is 100% expensive. It's just that's the way it is. Paul, do you have any thoughts on opening a branch of BoardGameCo in the UK as the cost shipping puts the cost of your games out of reach? Unfortunately, almost the reverse. If anything, my question is, how long can I sustain BoardGameCo over in the US? Ultimately, it is a lot of work for not a lot of money. Very not a lot of money. And it's as satisfying it is to be providing a space in a way for people to utilize collections in a way they don't. It's also frustrating dealing with used games and the problems that come with it. Frustrating for myself and frustrating for people who experience issues. I don't know what the future of BoardGameCo is. It's eventually down the road, 3 years from now, or 5 years from now, I don't know exactly when, but either someone else is doing it or I have an employee doing it or something, but I just long term, I can't sustain doing it myself. It's not worth the time. Right now I do it because I don't want to walk away from it, but I don't want to leave people hanging from something. So I hope to eventually be able to get someone else doing it or sell it off. But BoardGameCo, I don't know what the future holds for it. Okay. Monica, people bring their kids into their adult games at different ages. Cool that your 6-year-old is playing such games. 100%. It just means that I have to be balanced when I give a video talking about it. Bart, what makes a game timeless is the lack of a clock. Mysterium is not timeless. That is a terrible answer, Bart. You are the worst. Monica, I want Tiny Epic Vikings. Right now I have dinosaurs and westerns. I'm waiting for pirates. I'll check out Tiny Epic Cthulhu's. You give me an insanity mechanic like Cthulhu Death May Die where I can level up and go insane. I'll be intrigued. Pacey, please give a shout out to Roll for Crit channel. They are the best Patreon I back. The weekly podcast for Patreons is the best I support. So, Roll for Crit has a dedicated podcast for Patreons. That's fascinating. Didn't know that. So, I mean, I'll give a shout out to Roll for Crit in general. Roll for Crit is on. I have a lot of different lists of YouTubers I want to shout out for in different ways. I just don't want to stuff the channel with having too many at once, which is why I've been spacing them out by about 6 months. But like, I'll do a video for the best channels for news. That's where Roll for Crit is. The best channels for Kickstarters, the best channels for rules, whatever. I plan on covering all these, what my favorite channels are for each subsection of the hobby. So Roll for Crit is on that list already. Azil, are we done? Are we done? Are we due for a new late pledge update video? Yes, tomorrow's video is the late pledge update. I'm aiming for every 3 months in those. I realize that every month and a half is not enough turnover. It's going to miss things. It does mean that some things will be missed. Something will come up for late pledge and leave before I have a chance to cover it. But right now, I'm aiming for every 3 months on those videos. Jonathan Chi, thoughts and stars of Icarios? I don't look into it enough. I covered it a long time ago. I don't know enough about it. Simmer Dig, Zombicide Pirate. How about Zombicide Ninjas? Oh my gosh, Zombicide Ninjas. My kids would go crazy for Zombicide Ninjas. Don't tell them that. Samurai, I think that'd be cool. I'd be down. I'd be down for that one too, honestly. Although Zombicide Pirates does mean you could pretend you're playing, Pirates of the Caribbean. Eddie Coulter, do you think new editions of games that are streamlined can damage the joy of the game? 100% yes. I don't like Zombicide Invader as much as I do Zombicide Black Plague. Some people will like it more. So that's the tricky side. Paul J, I saw the Deep Space D6 Armada Pledge Manager. Got myself a copy of that thing twice. Looked like a game with great mechanics, with a clean and minimalist art style. I'm gonna add Deep Space D6 to my list, Pledge Manager, because I don't think I have that on my list for the Pledge Manager that's going up today. I have 100 games that will be going up. It's literally 100 games. I think I cut 2 to make it exactly 100 because I'm like that. Although I pushed off 2, didn't cut them. But I will have 100 games open for late pledge on my video tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. Edgar Townsend, I love the last playthrough of Everdell. Do you plan to do more playthroughs? I think would be great. I plan to do playthroughs of everything. It is a balance how I manage the content. The problem with playthroughs is however long the video is. So let's say a video is an hour long. Assume I spent 90 minutes editing that video, just going through it timestamp by timestamp and shifting the camera views. So it adds more time, but I also play more games with my wife and I enjoy them. So I plan to keep doing them. James the Great, what's the best way to cull games? I'm not sure if you mean where to sell them or how to decide. Sam, where do you usually sell and trade games? I already answered this one, so I'm going to skip past that. Miguel, better Kickstarter than crack. 100%. So Kickstarter is the best addiction. I believe that. I think it's one of the better addictions you can have in the space, in the world, but it's still an addiction. Monica, I own Viva Java Dice, Coffee Roaster, and Latte Throwdown. I don't know Latte Throwdown. I have to look into Latte Throwdown now. And Chai for my T game fix. So yeah, Chai was okay. Didn't love it. We still have it because Ricky likes it. I'm going to start having to do Ricky. I'm going to start having to have Ricky do her own cull videos because she's getting too many games as it is. Sam, what do you think about Blood on the Clock Tower? It looked interesting, but it also requires a mod. So I'm just a moderator, whatever it is. And I tend not play games like that. Successful. All right, already went all in on Primal, and it's all your fault. I'm okay with that. 100% okay with that. Eric, Monica, I love drinking coffee. Wasn't sure playing themed games. It seems like everyone praises and loves it. Maybe I should look into it. Out of those, which ones do you recommend? So I'll let her answer that. Jessica, I played my first game of Everdell yesterday. I loved it. Does the base game last long before it gets somewhat boring? Good question. I've probably played the base game around 8 or 9 times before I finally played the expansion for the first time. So I'm sure it gets boring. I did feel like I wanted to do some expansion earlier. I just didn't get around to it. But I would happily play the base game a decent chunk before wanting an expansion. But I think an expansion will mix it up. Even just the expansions I played with right now, those cards, I think it's going to keep it fresh for a very long time. I'm going to try to rattle through the end because we are really getting late here. Okay. I played my first game of Everdell. We cover that. Pacey. What is the game you have reviewed the worst? Do you feel bad about it? Do you worry about meeting the designer? So a full-on review, the worst game is going to be probably Galaxy Defenders. I really did not enjoy that one. The game was okay, and the barriers to entry were fairly high for a game that I merely thought was okay. Fun fact, I still talk to the designer. They actually, so some of the changes they have are because of the publisher, so it's not all the designer's final vision, which is a factor as well. But I do worry about that stuff. I do worry about saying a game is bad when it's not. I do worry about saying a game is bad because I am in a small space and I will hurt someone with my words. But I also won't say a game is good if I don't believe it is, because that would be me hurting the audience with my words. Either way, you run the risk of making someone unhappy, and I'd rather just be honest given a choice between making someone unhappy one way or the other. Willagenza, in Australia, I found a coconut board for 140. Nice. Yes, so you can get thinner, less premium boards for cheaper, basically. Andres, have you played Board Royale the Island? I have not. I've seen it. It looks like very card-based. I didn't see enough to make me think that it is very whatever, but either way. Alex Yang, thank you. Excellent reply. I'll say sure, but I don't remember the question. Eric, I think app issue is based on accessibility. People love the Gloomhaven Help app, almost mandatory for the game. So I have zero problems with using apps, but I don't want it to be mandatory. Let me play the game the way I want, and if I want to use the app, I will do so. And sometimes I do. More often than not, I don't. Monica, I saw my games at auctions at the event that got canceled this March. Oh, I'm sorry. Michael, have you played Tainted Grail? No, I have not yet. I plan on eventually. Monica, I don't have a channel. I'm an avid solo gamer. Good for you. Start a channel, maybe. Ooh, maybe content creation. It's fun. Correction. I want tiny epic Vikings being made. Yes. Pacey. So is your full-time job not board game related? So my full-time job, I have 3 jobs. Don't get me started on this. So my full day job is I work for an e-commerce company. We build websites, and that is it's a great job. It's not board games. Then I work for BoardGameCo, doing management of trading, selling, all of that. That's the company I run, and that one is board games. But honestly, it's 95% just customer service. So it's not satisfying being in board games, and it's the least money. If I had the first one I would quit from these three things that I do right now would be that one. I just don't want to leave people hanging, which is why I keep it on going for now. But at a certain point, I won't be able to do everything. And then, of course, there's the channel now, which is what I hope to do full time with my life at some point, as soon as I can, realistically. Yuri, I have so many board games like X-Wings, Fallout, D&D Starter Pack, but I can't play them. I just got Roll20, but I can't find anything at all for D&D, and I got Tabletop Sim, but I can't find many people. I feel your pain. I don't have anything better to say. I feel your pain. Danny Wilson, have you had a chance to try out Tainted Grail? No, I just covered that. Monica, I love Coffee Roaster. It's a solo. Coffee Roaster was great. I liked it a lot, but it didn't get different. It was the same game every time I played it, so I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But like 15 plays later, I moved on from it. Entrecruzado, do you have any Friedman Feast games? I have Friday, which I love, and I have Power Grid, which I played a long time ago, didn't love, but wanted to play again because I played it a long time ago. I want to try it again. But Friday I love. I think Friday is an excellent solo game. Carson, I'm contemplating splurging for Chaos in the Old World. It's expensive, probably never going to be reprinted. Have you played it? Do you recommend it? If so, I do recommend it. I think it's a great game. Also, not my favorite. Not my favorite in terms of I recommend Kemet, Cyclades, Blood Rage over Chaos in the Old World. Those I prefer all those to Chaos in the Old World, but I do love Chaos, so it's a balance. I do love it. I think it's worth the money. I prefer other area control games first. Hello, sweetie. What's up? Oh, I need to wrap up. Apparently, I need to wrap up. So I'm going to be wrapping up. Okay, contemplating. Do you want to say hi? Come say hi. Yeah. Come say hi. Come say hi. Come say hi. She's not going to say hi. Oh, well. Okay, what's up, Alex? I've gotten into Marvel LCG and Lord of the Rings LCG. I know you enjoyed Primal, where there's some similarities as a card game. Have you tried or enjoyed Marvel? I love Marvel, haven't played Lord of the Rings, and Marvel is very similar to Primal, at least in my own personal feel. And Crusoe, I fight every week to stop backing games. At least I'm improving. So I'm right there with you. I still back more than I should, but I do. This past month, for instance, there are a lot of games I wanted to back that I chose not to, and it's happening this month as well. Eric, speaking of coffee, am I seeing water? Yes, I addressed this. I had coffee an hour and a half ago. I'm not having coffee twice right that quickly. Is Zombicide Second Edition worth getting? 5% market for all in pledge. I haven't played it. Honestly, I'd probably pass at this point. Between Black Plague and the new Wild West, I'd probably just pay attention to those, but I haven't played it. Zombicide Second Edition might be the best Zombicide you'll ever play. Senor Cheese, yeah, the one needs to run through some coffee grounds. Agreed. Okay, let me scroll down through here to get some last time. Oh, we have down to like 8 questions left. Great. Eric, okay, we have Kickstarter, PNP campaigns, anime board games. Kickstarter, PNP campaigns, what you recommend? I don't get print and play campaigns, so I don't recommend any of them. I'm not against them. I just don't back those. Black Kitty, maybe I missed your pronunciation. TOJ. You said to definitely back on Kickstarter. Theurgy. It's not T or G. It's Theurgy. It's a game. I'll type it in the chat. Here we go. You're gonna type it in the chat. Theurgy. Okay, there we go. Okay. I work too much to have energy for a channel, and my technical abilities are like duh. My technical abilities were like duh too. You learn. You live and you learn. Jan comes to thank you for the information on the entertainment fire in this channel. It's a lot of crazy and all possible moments. It's even more appreciated. I love it. I'm having too much fun. Monica, YouTuber in the making. Liberation Game Design. Which games do you think do not going to have tension are now out of print? Do you think they should get a reprint or just people get a second edition for it? It's a good conversation, good topic for a video. Chris Richardson, do you like the Mythic Battle games? I played Mythic Battles. I wasn't pulled in enough. It wasn't bad. I just wasn't pulled enough to go all in on what is a very expensive thing. Beerman, sorry I'm late to reply. Blood Rage Euro. Blood Rage I consider a hybrid game. Hybrid of Euro and what's it called? Successful Geek, what's your pick of the week coming to crowdfunding this week? I don't know. I have to check what's coming. Let's see. Kickstarter this week is going to be, I think Mythic Battles was pushed off. If I'm not mistaken, Mythic Battles was pushed off, which means we have Robinson Crusoe, we have Arma, we have Fjords, Eos, Island of Angels, Legendary Metal Coins, Flick Fleet, Florissa's Tome Light, Battle for Britannia, Buru, Factory Funner, Solani. Solani, the girl who made the stars, is one that I'm very interested in. That might be my pick of the week just for my own interest level. Don't know if it's a good game at all. Beyond the Beer, I don't know if you covered it already, but are you getting a review copy of Mythic Battles Ragnarok? Nope, I am not, and they probably should not send this to me because I've made it clear. I think it's a good game. I wasn't in love with it. And always, especially if you're doing a game that already exists, find the content creators that love your game. Why would you do anything else? Liberation Game Design, thank you for the time and the answers. Eric, thank you for the live Q&A. Spending time. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, Alex. Liberation Game. What is KDM that you mentioned earlier? Thanks for your time. Kingdom of the Monster. Have you played Monster Hunter yet? Ooh, Monster Hunter. Maybe. 1 second. Ooh. These would be the Monster Hunter miniatures. Look at that. Look at that beautiful little thing. Put them over here. So that's going to be the Monster Hunter miniatures for the Monster Hunter World, which is over there. I have played it online and I like it, but I'm going to hold off on more until I play it more. I would say I liked it more than my first play of Primal. Don't like it more than where I like Primal right now. But again, my first play of Primal I didn't love. So I'm intrigued to see where it goes. If I had to make a guess, I'd say I'm going to want to back it and like it, but I don't know if I'm going to like it as much as Primal. So I'll let you know either way, but I do plan on covering it as well. There'll be a online gameplay because I played it online, as well as an in-person review and possibly in-person solo gameplay. We'll see. I don't know yet. In any case, that's a good way to wrap up the stream, the chat. Thank you so much for everyone for being here for the second version of the chat, because we had two today because the first one failed. I'm glad the second one did not. As always, until next time, have a great one. Have a good week. It's going to be a busy week for me trying to cram everything up so I can get prepped for next week in my shorter week. Until next time, have a good one.